We go. Thanks, Ross. All right, so today we're just going to go over a little bit about why we're here and how we can win and what that looks like. We'll go a little bit into the sim itself, and Ross is going to show us the sim and kind of click around so that you see how that works. We will also talk a little bit about support, what that looks like, because we realize that you're not going to be 100% knowledgeable of how this works. And so we want to be here to support you throughout this experience. And then there will be questions most likely from y'all. So feel free to raise your hand physically or through Zoom, put it in the chat or unmute and just let us know like, hey, yo, I got a question. Stop talking, Stefan. Also, with that being said, there might be, and just as a heads up, you might be like, hey, I'm supposed to be with my friend in this country. If you've signed up already, you know that you take a foreign policy attitude test and it automatically puts you into a country. And so we're trying to catch those and put you in the right countries. This is not how the sim usually works because we don't really get students who are like, I want to be with this friend and this friend and this friend. So we're trying to do that as best we can. So bear with us, but please let us know if we're not putting you in the right country. With that being said, you received an email. It had a lot of links in it, and that's a lot of links. And sometimes it's like, I don't want to click on all those links. So you don't have to click on them all now. Thank you for being here and clicking on that link. That was an important link. But you can click on that link for our support sessions throughout the week. There are some more links in there with the leaderboard in our Twitter account. The leaderboard will also be up if you are going to be in Nashville physically. There'll be a big screen, and then there'll be a slide going on that with your teams, your scores, and how else to get engaged. But then at the bottom, there'll be a little thing for voting, a link for voting. We'll talk about the voting in a bit. But feel free to go back to that and share those links with friends. Why are we here? Just overall, statecraft, we are here because we were those kids in the classroom that sat in the back and were just totally disengaged. And we want to make sure that students can have fun and learn. That's the important part that, we're all teaching. Students get something out of education. And so that's why our simulation exists, is so that those students can really start to grasp the decisions that leaders are making in the real world and remember them and act on them. And so you as professors, you as students, you as colleagues, get that experience. And so first and foremost, we want you to engage and have fun with that. Also, you're at ISA because you're at ISA for so many other reasons than statecraft. So networking, learning, presenting, there's so many other things. And we don't want this to be the sole focus. We're glad you're here, but also like, this is a networking opportunity. Meet some people in these worlds and start talking and having conversations. And if so happen you make a paper and that becomes a presentation next year because of this, fantastic. That's awesome. But then the last thing is obviously to win. You were all here to win. That might not be the case for you, and that's totally fine. But a lot of people are here to win, and that you can put that on your resume, your LinkedIn, that you won a statecraft ISA competition. So how do you win? There are goals in the sim, and Ross is going to go over those in a little bit. And they're specific as to how to do that. And throughout the sim, each turn that you take, we will update those points. The turn system, if you're not familiar with the turn system, totally okay. You make decisions we encourage you to start earlier in the morning. You can start as early as 10:30 in the evening, but the sim ends the turn at 10 p.m. So between 10:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. the next day, you could essentially make your decisions on trades, on negotiations, on diplomacy of treaties or joining of international organizations or investing in military or espionage. All that happens. And at the end of the turn, it takes a bunch of those decisions and then it spits back out your score compared to other teams and your new resources and technologies. Yes, go for it.
I didn't get which hours we have for the turn and according to which time zone. Like we're doing Chicago time zone?
Great question. Yeah. So Nashville, we're going to stick to Nashville Central Standard. Chicago will be that time zone. And then it should also be on the website, but I will send it out later too. All turns must be input by 10 p.m. And then We recommend that you don't do anything until the next day, just so that you can enjoy your nights and not have to fret about it. So you start as early as 5 kind of thing, if that's your thing. The last turn, turn 4 ends at 11:59 a.m. this Friday. So you can make decisions up until that point, all the way up until that point. And as soon as that point hits, the simulation's done. All the scores are tabulated and we figure out who wins. Yep, go for it.
So a follow-up, just because I don't operate in the Nashville time zone. So it's 10 p.m. the turn ends, and then at 10 p.m. and 1 minute, it's the next turn.
Great question. So our system takes about 30 minutes to take all the decisions that your other worlds, or sorry, countries in that world make. And then about 30 minutes later, it'll start the new turn. Good question. Thank you. So with that being said, you have these goals, you're going after these goals, you're seeing your status. There's 4 separate worlds. There's about 9 countries, some 10 countries in each world. It is not a competition only just with those worlds, but overall. So if you have the best score in your world, but it's not the best score overall, you don't win. You want to get the best score over all the worlds. So that's why we'll put that on the leaderboard so that you can see where you're at throughout this week. Now, that being said, there's a lot of different ways to score points, but Ross, again, will go into that one in a little bit. The last thing I have to say real quick is about the winners. So there is a first place score or first place winner for $300. It's a Visa gift card, so we'll send it to you. If your team is 3 people, each of you get 100. If your team is 1 person, you get the 300 in a lump sum. For the second place, it's 200, and for third place, it's 100. And then we will announce those about 4 p.m. on Twitter, CST, Nashville Standard Time, or Nashville Standard Time, Central Standard Time. So keep a lookout for those. I think that's it right now. Ross, would you care to just show us what's going on in the sim? You are muted, just so that you know.
Yes, I would love to do that. All right, guys. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen with you. And when you log into the sim, you should find something that looks a little bit like this. It'll be a tutorial that you have to actually click through. And so you can click through, and if you want to just jump right in, you can click get started. Otherwise, it'll walk you through exactly what you'll be doing during turn 0. So this is basically the sum of what you'll do in turn 0. You'll get another tutorial at the start of turn 1. I think, especially in this setting, following through this tutorial really quickly and just understanding what's going on, it's going to tell you everything that you should do. So I'll also send out emails every day just with a checklist saying, hey, here's some things you can do today. And so we're trying to make it as easy as possible. And this is also things that if you do teach a course, your students would be able to get to. And so we love to see the simulation used in classrooms. That's obviously the native habitat for the simulation. But I will click get started. Unfortunately, I was logged into a different account there. It'll open something like this. And so immediately what I would do is identify where my country is. On this map, there will be other countries, and each person is playing a country. Your border is your outline. Your flag matches your 3 cities. So in this case, I'm Truffle Land here, and there are 3 different cities in my country, which is this outlined with a yellow border. And so for the remainder of the simulation, I hope I will be controlling this landmass here, unless someone conquers me, or there is actually an ice mountain up here that is melting, or a polar ice cap, if you want to call it that, and it'll slowly encroach upon the land too. And so I noticed there were some climate politics, people who had studied climate politics in the chat today, and that was exciting because I think there'll be a fun aspect to that as well. The next thing that I would do here in your first turn, and again, your tutorial will walk you through this, but you can go down here to country settings and click on initial settings. If you are, I'm gonna stop my share just here and make sure that I'm logged in correctly. Sorry, I've been in and out of our admin page, and so it's reset my token, and so it'll just take me a second to get back into that simulation. But if you do click on initial settings there, it'll give you the opportunity to basically set up your country. It'll give you the opportunity to pick a leadership style. And then it'll also give you the opportunity to pick some starting technologies or starting kind of attributes to your country. And so let me reshare my screen here. Apologies for that. So if I click on country settings and initial settings, it'll give me the opportunity here to pick a government type and pick attributes. If this has already been done by you and you're noticing you've got a country name that doesn't look like country name 1 or country 2 or something, then maybe your teammate has logged in and done this for you already. And so you might want to talk to them before you make any changes here. You can also name your cities and even name the zones of your country, the provinces in that sense. And then you scroll down and hit submit. That's the bulk of your activity for this entire turn. So we don't want to overwhelm you in turn 0. The only other thing that you'll need to do is potentially discuss, if you're playing alone, this won't matter, but potentially discuss with your fellow teammates who is going to be the president of the country. And you can select this vote for president under country settings and select the person that you would like to be the president. Once turn 2 or turn 1 starts, the president will get have to set a decision key. That decision key is a password that they set. And then I recommend that they share it with everybody. But basically what it does is no decisions could be made, no structures could be purchased, no diplomacy can happen without that decision key. And so I recommend people share it if they're in teams, but it is up to the president whether they do so. Once turn 1 starts, you will be receiving some resources: gold, oil, food, steel, and scientific knowledge. And you'll get to spend those resources in the way that you choose. You can spend them on purchasing structures. You do that by clicking into any of the dots on your city, and then you can purchase structures. And so it'll give you a cost above it. It'll tell you whether you have the requirements yet, and I'll explain that in just a second. You'll also notice that in amongst these, you will find things that are specific to political capital. And so they will take, instead of gold, oil, food, steel, or scientific knowledge, they'll actually take your political capital, because like right here, if you want to start a conservation initiative, it's going to cost you 3 political capital. You get political capital by keeping your approval up in the simulation. But I know I'm talking about a bunch of things that you are not completely familiar with yet. And so one of the things that I would recommend doing first would to click into documents and to look at the manual. The manual is right there. It's 5 pages. I recommend doing a quick read through of that during turn 0. If you want to split that read up with your other teammates and have, yeah. So if you want to split that up with somebody, feel free. And I'm also going to drop the full manual for our IR sim into the chat here in just a minute. That will have about 70 pages. That sounds like a lot, but a lot of that is appendices and extra. If you want to figure out the numbers and everything, how everything is actually occurring, even the numbers that you get with your initial country attributes, feel free. We don't want to overwhelm people with that. And so in this IR light sim that we're playing, we have this 5-page manual that we think gives you a good feel for how to play. And you'll also have those tutorials as you go. So we try to make it as plug and play as possible for students and for participants in general. And so with that, you'll be spending that knowledge or those resources on doing things, and you'll be aiming for goals. And so if you click here on your grade book will outline the goals that you have. For example, eliminate pirate and terrorist threat, plus 10 points for the entire simulation if that happens. Most educated country, you can shoot for some of these goals. If it says, most educated or safest, you can win those just for yourself. But if it's something like stopping global warming, if the world is able to do that, then everybody gets plus 10 points. Now, I will say that because we're playing the light sim and because this is a competition, the way that you're going to win, or what a lot of the points will come down to, is going to be your quality of life. Your quality of life is an attribute right here, QOL. And if you click on it, it's the average of 6 different areas: health, welfare, environment, safety, education, and culture. Those are influenced by the buildings that you're building, the policies that you enact. And you can obviously build more and do more if you have great foreign relations or international relations and you're trading a lot. Everybody's resources will kind of skew in one direction. And so the more trades you can set up, the more diplomacy you can create, you can establish treaties with other people, you can share ambassadors, and so you can get an easier insight into the resources that other countries have. You can join international organizations. You can expel people from international organizations if they're doing something absolutely horrific. You could denounce them and they can lose political capital. We try to make it as robust as possible, but we also try to keep it really enjoyable and fun. And most of these things, as Stefan said, will be regulated by the algorithm, but things like treaties, they will be upheld by the members of your world. We don't actually uphold any of those things. It's if you make a peace treaty with somebody else and they attack you, that's a real life situation. And so, yeah, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. One thing I do want to say is if you don't know who's on your team yet, as some of you don't, you should have received an email about that. But if not, you can also click onto the flag of your country and you'll notice that there's a bunch of tabs. If you click officials, you can see here if there are other people in your country. In this case, I don't have anyone. And you can send them messages either outside of the sim using emails, or you can click into your mailbox and then you can compose. You can select your own country here. Like I could select Truffle Land, and then I can forward to student email. That'll forward to the email of the participant that's signed up. And so if you'd like to email them and don't have their email address on hand, that's a quick way to do so. Also a great way to update a teammate on something that you might have done. Maybe you've taken some actions while you were in the sim and you don't want them to do the same thing as well. Go ahead and email them about that in order to collaborate with them. I know that I've already thrown a lot of information at you in this short time. And so what I'd like to say is we have amazing support. Stefan, you have a question? We have amazing support. It's 24-hour bilingual support in English and Spanish. Please reach out to us. We're standing by to answer your questions. There are also support sessions every day. If you'd like to join a support session with myself or some of my teammates, or colleagues, you can definitely do so. I'm trying to find the times for those right now. Central time, we're looking at a morning support session just after 10. So actually 10:10 to 10:25. We were told that that would be a convenient time because there's generally a morning break between 10 and 10:30. And then again in the afternoon, there's a session from 3:40 until 3:55. So right between the 3:30 and 4 break, you can join a session and we can give you strategy tips. We can help you in any way that we possibly can. We're standing by to do so, and we do that with our students as well. So I think that might be a lot for me. There's probably a lot of questions that I haven't got the time to read yet, but Stefan?
Yeah, there's 2 questions in there. One was that someone signed in, I think Sabrina signed in and said the tutorial wasn't on her screen. And is there a way to potentially put that back on? How is that possible?
I cannot do that right now from my from the admin panel, but I would be happy to send you that. So, and if that was Sabrina, I can make sure to send that tutorial to you.
I think Sabrina and also Catherine. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can just put that in the attachments as well, just to add the tutorial for that.
Yes, we can do that.
Cool. There was another question. Oh, go for it, Bart.
I mean, like, I didn't try the tutorial when I started the simulation. I was like, oh, I'll get back to that. And then it didn't turn back on. So can I turn it back on somehow?
Yeah, so
No.
we will make sure to send that out. It could still be in another open tab because it does open a new tab when you click get started. So you could check your other tabs. I know I was just joking with Stefan about how many tabs we end up having open. But if not, we'll send that out as well. I'll make sure that everybody gets that.
And then, yeah, I think So Young, you asked, how can we check our teammates? I think he answered that. Did that answer your question with clicking on the flag and seeing the other officials?
I can.
I had a question related to that. I think Soyoung and I are actually on the same team, but there was a third person listed in our email. They're not showing up under officials? Is it just that they haven't signed up yet?
Can I have I think I'm the third person, Catherine. I see Catherine and Soyoung in the email, but I was gonna say that I just registered like 5 minutes ago, and it says that I'm assigned to country 1, while the initial email from Stefan says I'm assigned to country 7. So why is that happening, Stefan?
Yeah, so the way that this works is that you took a foreign policy attitude test to get in, right?
Yeah, I did.
It then groups you into a country that the simulation thinks is the best, but we're doing this manually, so we want to make sure that obviously you've requested to be with some specific people, so we just have to manually move you now. So now
okay, so I guess you will need to change me to country 7 back from country 1.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
okay.
we can do that.
Should I wait until until I do anything else with the simulation?
Yeah,
Yes, I will try and do that right now, and then I can tell you. Yeah.
Do I need to log out?
You can. That would help. Yeah.
Okay, I did. Thank you for asking that, Catherine. I was going to ask that. Why am I in a different country, actually?
Catherine, did that answer your question too?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So Young, you had your hand up first.
So, okay, I feel very bad about asking this, but my flag is somehow unclickable, so I cannot see my teammates that way.
Uh-oh.
So your flag in the top left, I tried clicking that too, and that's not how you do it within the map. If you click on the flag, you can go to officials.
I should have.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I should have specified that, and that's actually a good point. I'm going to write that down as something that we could improve to click on that top map to see your officials too.
Go for it, Catherine.
Oh yeah, that sounds good. My question is going to be in the bottom right. It says chat. I know like you showed us on the left under mailbox, you can like send messages to specific people. That chat on the bottom right, who all does that go to? It doesn't seem to be active right now, but I assume it may become active.
Anybody in your world who's online at the same time you are will show up there, but you should be able to like message them, and then they'll have that box just there so you can message them once they're offline too. You know, it could be great. Also, people, I mean, when I work with high school students, sometimes it's the Instagram DM is the way that they like to do it. So they're like, chat, meh, I'll find out whatever works best for me. So same thing for y'all, whatever works best for your team. Great question. I think, Tony, did you have yours up first, or did you, Ibrahim?
I think Tony did. Mine is a really trivial question, actually.
Okay, go for it, Tony.
First, we are country 1. We have already country 1, so I'm not sure if Ibrahim wanted to be in country 1, maybe because there was a change already with country 1. And also I had a question about, out of curiosity, what's the difference between the relaxed experience and the intense that we had to choose, and are we in competition with the intense? And the second thing is about the session that we have every day. So actually, if I understood correctly, the next session that are on agenda are just support, like tech support, and we don't need to join them, right? And then, so, okay, because we have like different time zone and stuff, so we can play anytime, and it's the date, like the hours is 10 p.m. CST to 10 p.m. CST for every turn, right?
Yes.
So to go through all those, Ibrahim's going to get moved, and if I'm saying that wrong, Ibrahim, let me know. Get moved over to the other country with Soyoung and Catherine.
I'm actually in country 7, right? I relogged in. I can see that I'm on country 7 right now.
Great. And then in terms of the number of countries that are competing and relaxed versus competitive, essentially you are competing against them with the overall points, but we've tried to group you into different worlds who have similar research focuses, as well as whether you wanted to play with an intense world or not. And so even if you're playing in a relaxed world, it doesn't mean that you can't go after the most military powerful. You may not use them. You may just have a lot of military and get points that way. So that could be a strategy that you have. Essentially, at the long run, the number of points that you have total will be compared to all the worlds and those countries. And then the last question did that answer that one, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one about the sessions that you can come to for support. Yeah, those are not required by any means. If you want to, and if you have questions, we definitely recommend you come to them if you can. But you can also reach out to us and just communicate via email as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just now I thought about something else. Is like you said the information I saved at the end of the turn. So I thought that there is some spying and stuff. Like when we look at other countries, do we see their data from the last turn, or do we see live what they are doing? And yeah.
Ross, you want to go?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me quickly address your previous question, and then I'd love to get to that question as well. Your previous question, basically, when do you need to play? You can play asynchronously, and that's the beauty of the sim. You can play completely asynchronously from your teammates. I would recommend, if you're doing so, to write notes for them and update them on what's happening or what you've chosen to do. And so, you know, when they log in, they'll understand what actions you've already taken. Also, the intense versus the not intense, we are trying to absolutely keep all of that completely fair. And so every world will experience the same events. We've kind of set a really healthy medium there. And then there's some sims where they wanted to experience some more things. And we have the ability from the admin side to add in things. We do that all the time for instructors, which is a really fun thing. For example, we've had a pandemic unfurl through some of the sims that's obviously digital to recreate what's going on in our world. We've had cyber threats taking place this semester, especially with the war in Ukraine. There's been some really interesting international securities and international organizations sims. So we have a bunch of ways to replicate what's going on in the real world, and we wanted to get a feel for whether our participants during this conference were feeling like they wanted something intense or feeling like they wanted something a little bit lighter. To address the other question, if you share an ambassador with someone, you would be able to see the resources that they get every turn. That's the joy of having an ambassador there, is they'll be able to inform you about what's going on, but you'll have to orchestrate that exchange. The spy information, you'll get a spy report at the start of every round if you've sent spies into another country. And you won't necessarily get all of the information that an ambassador would, depending on how many spies you send. And so if you've sent a lot, then you probably will get a lot of that information, but it will be at the start of every turn.
Great question, Tony. Thanks so much. Ibrahim, I think you were next.
Yeah, my question was kind of trivial. So you said the simulation will be using CST. In Texas, we're in CDT right now, daylight savings. Was that what you meant?
That's my fault.
Okay,
I'm not
no problem.
good with all those time things, so I'll say yes, you are right. CDT in that respect is correct.
And actually, I had another one while I was waiting for this question. So I was trying to find where we can actually play turn 0, but I guess I was not able to find. I don't know. Would you mind showing it again? How to actually practically play turn 0?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me show that again real fast. When you log in, I'm gonna log in using a different student so that I can replicate your exact experience.
Yeah.
My mouse is not functioning. Hold on, I apologize. All right.
Oh, initial thing.
Right here is what you would experience when you log in. You'll see this tutorial should pop up. Some of you have clicked past that, and that's totally fine. If you read through the tutorial as you go, it'll walk you through what you'll be doing during turn 0. So for example, here it'll say welcome, and then the first thing you'll want to do is click country settings. I'm going to fast forward through some of this by clicking through some of it. I recommend you just follow along with it, but then if you click get started, it'll take you to the actual simulation. And in the simulation, the first thing you'll want to do is maybe read your manual. That'll be under documents. But the actual playing of turn 0 will be setting your initial settings. And that's it, other than voting for president. So if you're not the president, or if you've discussed with somebody, set your initial settings here, and then click submit down at the bottom, and then choose, if you're with other players, once you've discussed it with them, vote for president, and you'll be done with the actions for this turn. In turn 1, most of what you'll be doing will be researching country technologies. You'll get 3 slots to do that. I'd always recommend doing that. You'll be spending a lot of time trading with other countries by proposing a trade here. You can also trade technologies. You'll be spending a lot of time clicking into, this, if you click onto the dot of one of your flags, purchasing structures once that loads, and doing that. And then you also spend a lot of time, since this is international relations, in the diplomacy tab. You can build military units. You can send spies, as we were just discussing. So a whole bunch of options there, explored more in the manual. And I did drop that more intense manual into the chat a few minutes ago. I hope that answers the question.
They actually kind of answered, but maybe a follow-up, just a quick one. We need to be doing these turns as a team, right? Because we're a team of country of 3 people. If I do something and So-Young or Catherine do the opposite, what happens?
So right now, the initial settings would be something I would discuss. Only one person can actually set that and then hit submit. If someone does it after that, then they'll be re-changing your settings. After that, you'll be voting for a president. The president can set a decision key starting in turn 1, so that no one else can actually take those actions unless they've discussed it with you first, or with whoever is the president. So the president can hold that decision key until you've all decided on a strategy, and then say, great, the decision key for this round is set to maybe even as something as simple as the number 1, and then share that with other players, and they can start taking actions. And every time the sim will ask you for a decision key, whenever you do anything, you just need to enter that decision key for that to happen. If you haven't discussed it yet and you want to start taking actions, maybe your president has shared a lot of responsibilities with you, that's great. I would use either the mailbox or even an external Google document, whatever you find easiest, to just take note of what you've actually done in the sim when you logged on each time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks,
see it.
Ross. And then we got Grin. You mentioned your name earlier, and I totally butchered it again. I'm so
But
sorry.
it's Nele. My
Neela,
first
sorry,
name is
Neela.
Nele, actually. It's the other way around.
Okay.
I have 2 questions regarding the simulation itself, if I can ask that too. First, you talked about invasion, but in the manual it says that we cannot attack a different country. Do you mean by invasion that we buy the regions of the other countries, or what were you talking about?
I would be remiss to think that the manual would say that. I'm going to double check that. I've not seen that in the manual, but you can potentially attack other countries during this simulation, and you'll have the opportunity to do so. You can respond to that in different ways. I've seen a lot of treaties and diplomacy used to stop and prevent attacks. Only about 30% of our simulations do encounter combat. And so there's a lot of ways to succeed without having combat.
In the first paragraph, an overview, in the last sentence, it says attacking other countries is forbidden, but
Okay.
spying and covert operations are allowed. So I was a little confused.
Yeah. Let me qualify that. I don't think that, I think that it will be, if you would give me just a second to, this is actually the first time that I've run it, and I know that sometimes during IR Lite that we don't allow combat, but I think that you will be able to attack other countries in this simulation. And so I need to confirm that with Stefan, do you know?
Yeah, so we should be able to utilize military abilities in this simulation. That is something that we wanted to make sure was available, but because nuclear powers do take a lot of resources, you probably won't be able to not only research them, but also use them. So thinking about that being on the table, it's probably not the thing that you want to invest every single thing toward. I know that was another question by Inmarin here, so thanks for that. Does that help, Neela?
Yes, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I also have a different question. So when there is no terroristic group in your country, can they spread to your country also?
They can, and so can the pirate groups. The pirates will invade. I'll say it now. I think the pirates will probably invade countries that do not participate very well. So if you just ignore the sim, you'll probably lose your country to pirates pretty quickly. And then the other thing is that you can, if you research counterterrorism operations, you can shut down terrorist cells in other countries as well without being in combat with them.
Okay, thank you.
Those are great questions. Other questions that are popping up. Tony, did that answer your question as well in the chat?
Yeah. If I understood correctly, then no nuclear weapon, but conventional invasion possible.
Yep.
Okay.
In the IR full sim that y'all will not be playing, there are a lot more military capabilities. And so that is something just to take into consideration. Like if you were to use this in a class and use the IR full, most likely it would be 7 to 10 turns, and you'd have a lot more time to invest in those resources and big projects to then become more of a potentially aggressive world. I'm not sure if this goes without saying, but for the classes that we have in the US, a lot of them become aggressive. For the students who are in Canada, they're pretty peaceful. I want someone to do a study on that. So if you're interested, please talk to us. We'd love to chat with you about that. Other questions? Thanks so much for being attentive and digging in on this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, actually, I have a question related to these actions, because first when I saw that there is 4 turns, I thought there is not much to do every turn. Like it's like we take a few decisions in each field, but then you mentioned that there's a lot going on, and so actions like turns are pretty heavy, or?
Yeah,
that's a great question.
I can address that. So there are 3 things you can research each round, but that is a very small part of overall your tasks. And so researching, I would set up as much trades as possible. When I play, I try to have multiple trades and even consistent trade or trade agreements with other countries, so that I always know that going into the next round, even though I will produce more gold maybe and they will produce more oil, then we'll immediately trade gold for oil at the start of the turn. You can, run a bunch of diplomatic ideas. So you could create treaties, you can exchange ambassadors, you can create military units, and you can purchase structures and enact policies within your country. And so all of that would be the tasks. And so I've seen people that don't, that are able to achieve a turn in maybe 30 minutes and do everything that they wanted to do. But I think that it's way better to log in for a few minutes here and there and continue to take actions, continue to enact trade. You can propose trades, you can propose treaties. And so things need to be responded to by the other players in the sim.
I'll add on to that too, Tony, in saying that this is anarchy. So whatever you want to see, you can do. And what I mean by that too is when you look at Washington Post, New York Times, whatever website or newspaper you look at, you have the not just ability, but responsibility to figure out if that's something that you trust. Well, you can also send out mail to anybody in the sim, and it can be true or false. And so there is literally anything that you want to do, you can do in the sim. Okay. Figure out how your strategy plays into that, and then utilize any of those techniques to your capability. So Young, I want to make sure that you get a question asked too.
Yes, so I'm wondering, like, so like, where do we see how many resources, like, do we start off with some resources that we can invest into steel mines? Like, I'm trying to see if like we could get steel mining, and I don't, like, it says, no, you don't have anything. I'm like, okay.
You're already in like, I'm turn one, let's do this. So Ross will probably go ahead, and if you want to pull that up, Ross, that'd be great. There's resources at the top bar, but you're not going to have any right now in turn 0. You probably want to look at your geographical resources, and that's going to help determine what you might want to invest in moving forward. Go
Yeah,
for it, Ross.
so right now everyone will start with 0 just because we don't want, we just wanted to make turn 0 just that initial settings. As soon as turn 1 starts, you will get a base production. So everyone gets kind of a level of everything just to start. But if you'd like to select or mouse over this little plus sign in the top left and then click geographical resources, you can see that there are areas on the map that are currently producing, like this area here produces a lot of steel. And so this salmon colored country will get steel, and this kind of purple-ish country will get 500 steel, and the red country here will get 500 steel per turn. And that's just based off of what they would normally get, but you can purchase structures that are resource enhancement structures and up that level as well. And so as soon as you start turn 1, you'll have enough resources to purchase structures, but you can also trade to get additional resources.
Does that
That's a
help
great
answer? Ross, in IR Lite, you're able to trade on the black market still, is that correct?
Yes. So right here, if you'd like to, you can trade at a 3-to-1 ratio. Not recommended, but if you're really desperate for that, you know, last resource, maybe you need that little bit of extra gold, you can give up maybe 300 oil to get 100 gold. It is possible to do so.
So Young, that answered your question? Cool.
Mm.
Catherine, go for it.
Okay, so like you said, a lot of this is just going over my head right now. Is there going to be, you mentioned like support meetings later on in the week. Is there going to be any more of these meetings where you're telling us how to play?
Great question. So we could do these in support meetings, or you can just sign up with your team or by yourself to say, hey, this is my strategy. Is that right? And we'll probably ask you questions, but also can walk you through some decisions that you can make so that you're not like left out to dry by any means.
Right. And we're completely open to schedule those with you. So if you want to reach out to us, we'd love to do that. We just didn't want to put more things on the calendar that people might not align with gaps that people might have.
Yeah, personally, I think at least just like one tomorrow for turn 1, since it's going to be what it sounds like so different from turn 0.
Yeah, for sure. And if you wanted to join and it's convenient for you, again, we have one in that 10 to 10:30 Nashville time. And then we have another one in the afternoon from I think between 3:30 and 4.
Yeah, great question, Catherine. Other questions coming up? Other questions? Y'all have been literally the most engaged, so thank you. We appreciate it. Maybe the winner's sitting here. We don't know, but maybe you get to vote on them later. Yeah, feel free to vote for your own country. I think that would be ideally, that'd be cool if you could win and vote for your own country to win. All right, so, oh, sorry, Tony, you got another question. When does it end already? What does that mean in terms of the whole sim? Yeah, so it ends Friday at 11:59 a.m. CDT, Ibrahim, CDT. So that, yep, getting better at these times. Yeah, so it'll end then, and then all of the numbers will be calculated in terms of who's going to win. Keep your eyes peeled on the leaderboard. We will update that every evening after the turn ends to make sure that you have an updated score for yourself in comparison with the other countries in all 4 of the worlds. So there should be World Shield, World Sword, World Shout, and World, what was the last word? Yeah, Shake. Thank you. And they each have different colors, so you'll see those represented on the leaderboard. Other questions? Other questions? Okay, cool. Well, we have another recording that's out. We will put this up online as well, so you can check it out too. If you have other questions, you know, you can reach us on an email, and I have a list of things here that I will be sending out later today so that you have even more links if you need it. But other than that, go have some fun networking, go have some fun at ISA, getting some really cool sessions and learn some cool stuff. So thank you so much for choosing to be with us. We really appreciate it. And we hope that you have some fun with us too.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time and your explanation.
Yeah,
Very cool.
absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody,
Bye-bye.
get playing.
Take care.